Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, the show where you get your questions in 90% of the time. Funnily enough, they are property related, although we do like straying into that random 10% that you bring us every now and again as well. What do we have this week? Well, you're about to find out. But before we get into our first question, which this week is from Andrew, let's give you a quick reminder of how you can get your questions in.
It's oh so easy. All you need to do is go to propertyhub.net/ask. Once you're there, you can send us a written question for the Sunday Times. You can send us an audio question for this here podcast. We love audio questions because it keeps the podcast going. So we're now going to hold up our side of the bargain and answer a question for Andrew.
Hi, Rob and Rob. Hope you're well. I stumbled across your podcast a couple of weeks ago and really enjoying them. I'm a carpenter by trade. I run a carpentry construction company just outside Gatwick, and it's always been my dream to renovate and get into property developing. I got left some inheritance this year, about 100 grand, and I'm looking to finally go ahead with my dream. Obviously, the ideal situation is to buy property that needs work, do it, and being able to do the work myself, and then sort of have the property as an investment of when I retire, whether that's a rent or obviously selling. So my questions really is, do I niche down into something what's going to be the best thing to niche with my sort of skill set, or is it more about finding the right property rather than finding the right type of property? Another thing that I've sort of noticed is a lot of investors do interest-only mortgages. Before I sort of looked into it, in my head I was thinking that obviously I wouldn't do the interest-only mortgage. I would do a property up, sort of rent it out, and then obviously when the mortgage is paid off in 20, 25 years, when I come to retirement, obviously I'm beginning to get a rent avenue to live off and then to leave to my kids. And so that's another question that I would like you to answer if possible. And any other sort of tips of how to finally find the right property and just to go ahead and get on with it. Thanks a lot. Cheers, guys.
Andrew, thank you for your question. Really appreciate it. And you've got yourself in a really interesting position, which is why it can be hard, right? Because you've got options. And normally when people say, well, I've come into some money and I'm thinking about doing refurbs, I'm like, oh no. And the reason I'm like, oh no, is because that's what people see on the telly. So they think it's the natural way to do property investment, when actually the majority of property investment is not done that way. The reason why it makes TV is because there's normally more drama involved, and that makes good TV. Doing a simple buy-to-let with no hassle isn't great TV. But I don't feel like that with you. And the reason why is I often say to people, if you have the skills or the experience, then maybe you can do it. But most people don't, but you do. So with your skills and experience, it would be foolish to not at least consider the refurb option, because you can add so much value. You can do a lot of the work yourself as well. You'll be able to price it correctly, and you've just got a huge advantage that others don't have. The other thing is most developers and builders will do it on much bigger projects. The competition for finding a home that's run down, that needs work to bring it up to standard, will be a lot smaller. So again, it puts you in a good position. But you are absolutely correct in saying that you need to find the right property. Now, you can do a standard buy-to-let investment, and if you see the deal of the century and you just want to go for that, then fine, by all means do that. But do have a look at what's on the market, but don't do a refurb for the sake of doing a refurb. The amount of investors I've met that have done refurbs, spent 12 months getting it done, putting time and effort in, and then when you look at the numbers, you realize that they would have been no better off than just buying something already done, or that the value they've added for all the time and tears that they've put into that project has added a few grand. Is your time worth that? Well, no. But like I've said, you will know what a project costs. Don't get emotional. Something I see very often is people get what I call deal buyers, where they'll find a deal and then they'll start to find a way to make it work. They'll talk themselves into it. They'll start to work on best case scenarios because they've worked so hard to find a deal. When they find one that half works, you start to look at the best version of that deal rather than a realistic version. So make sure you don't do that. Be patient. It doesn't matter if it takes you 6 months to find the right property. You're in it for the long term, which you've stated. So be patient. And after 6 months, if you really can't find anything, then yeah, maybe consider other strategies. But I think you owe it to yourself and the skills that you've got to at least attempt it. As far as interest only is concerned, yes, for the vast majority of investors, interest only is the way to go. Leverage is absolutely the way to go as well. However, there are exceptions to this. And maybe, without knowing all your information, maybe, based on what you've said, if you're just planning to do the one property and you want the mortgage paid off by the time you retire, then maybe interest only isn't the way to go for you. And that's okay. To most people listening, it's not going to be right for you. But if you are planning just on buying one property, never expanding your portfolio, and you've worked out that one property will be enough for your retirement when you're older, then great. For most people, it won't be. But if you can get it all paid down by the time you retire and you've done the sums to figure out that that will be enough for you, then why not? You don't always have to follow the proven model. While it may be the proven model for the majority, it's not the proven model for every single person. And like we've discovered with your experience, Andrew, you're in a unique situation. So good luck. Hopefully that helps. And be patient. Find the right deal, not just any deal.
Okay, let's answer our next question now. This one is from Jal.
Hi, Rob and Rob. This is Jal from London. Thanks once again for all the content that you guys put out, and of course for the opportunity to ask questions here. So here's my situation. We completed on a new build flat in our personal name in London, February of 2024. A flat is part of a block of 6 new flats. We have it fully managed by an estate agent, so we're very hands-off landlords. I've just received communication, however, from the developers saying that as of September 2024, directorship of the management company for the block has been passed from the developer to the owners of the 6 flats. And they've given us company number and said that we now need to sort out a bank account, buildings insurance, paying for the electrics in the communal area and for the waste collection. So I think the other 5 flats are owner occupied, although I'm not sure. I don't have their contact details and the developer won't give them to me. I could obviously write to them, which is probably what I'll need to do. But yeah, I was just wondering if you can give any advice on how to go about this without it becoming a major hassle or a bit of a headache to run this management company. I'm basically very keen to remain hands-off. So is it something I just contact the other owners about and we sort something out, or I can leave it with the estate agent who's managing it for us, or do I need to speak to our solicitor? Yeah, any advice or signposting on this would be much appreciated. Thanks very much.
Jal, thank you for your question. I'm sorry this one has landed in your lap, but it should be relatively straightforward to sort out. So for a block of 6 flats, something small like that, it is something where if you or one of the other owners wanted to take on the responsibility and actually run the management company, arrange all the services and avoid paying a chunk to a block management company, then you could do. But it sounds like you don't want to do that. I wouldn't do either. So either someone else will need to step up or you'll need to arrange for a management company to be put in place. What you want to avoid is nothing happening and everyone just sitting there waiting for someone else to do something. So it is probably worth you putting in a bit of effort to get the ball rolling on this and get a solution in place. Of course, to do that, you will first need to be able to contact the other owners. If they're owner occupiers, then you know where they live. So that's quite handy. So you can get letters sent to them. You could also ask the developer if they'd be willing to pass on a message from you. So they might not be willing to give out personal details, but they might be willing to send on a letter or an email from you asking people to get in touch with you. Once you've got some degree of engagement, and you don't need everyone, then you can go about getting something set up. If there is no one there who's super keen to do it and has loads of time on their hands, then it definitely seems like a good idea to put an agent in place. And it's not going to be super expensive. Generally, you'll be looking at about £50 to £100 per flat per year, or maybe 10% of the service charge budget, something like that. But it's not going to be absolutely loads. It does, of course, mean that you lose some control. You need to be confident that they're going to exercise those duties correctly and be competitive in the quotes that they get for different things. But ultimately, as you own the management company and you are just basically subcontracting the job to them, you have control. You can take that responsibility back whenever you want to. So I would say your first step is to write to the owners, get some kind of conversation going, maybe have a virtual meeting of some kind and take it from there. If there's someone else who wants to do the running on it, then great. But if not, then even though you want to be hands off, it might actually be worth you stepping up and getting this sorted, because ultimately it will help your investment to run more hands off in future. So I hope that helps and good luck.
So that's us done for another week. We'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast in the Sunday Times on Sunday, and back this same time, same place next week, answering more of your questions. Until those wonderful events occur, take care, have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.